Hi everyone, this is Ashley. I just wanted to give you a quick update before we listen to this week's podcast. We are down to our final 2 interviews for He Needed Killin, but we will be doing them a bit out of order. Next week, we will have our final He Needed Killin cast conversation with Laura Adams. Laura was interviewed back in July, but we've held her interview till the end as a kind of bridge to the next TTD production, Frankenstein, a radio play, which is the show Laura will be directing for TTD. Auditions are this coming Friday, September 20th at 6 p.m., so please check out our Facebook page for more information. And after that, look for interviews to begin with the main characters from that cast. That being said, today, Friday, September 13th, I had the chance to speak to Mary Clark, the understudy for the character of Amelia. My co-host Bree was out of town, so it was just the 2 of us in the library studio this time. Mary talked about her feelings about being an understudy, how her sister informed her choices about playing Amelia, and some of her favorite moments from the show. Please be advised that this conversation contains heavy spoilers for the production. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Ashley.
Could you introduce yourself and tell everyone who you played in the show?
I am Mary Clark, and I was the understudy for Amelia.
Yes.
Or Mary Amelia, as I was sometimes referred to.
Yes.
And I was also an ensemble member in the party scene.
That is true. And my next question is, what is your day job? But I don't think you really have a day job.
No, I'm 16, and I don't work anywhere, but I do go to school. I'm a junior at Oldham County High School, and that's what I do every day.
Okay, how do you like being a junior?
I like it quite a lot because, being a freshman and a sophomore, there's a big difference between being 16 and 14, at least for me. People are starting to take you more seriously, and you're starting to take yourself more seriously. And, by junior year, you got it figured out, and you know, what you're doing in high school and, what you're there to do, and you kind of have, I figured out. And of course they always say junior year is the hardest year, academic wise, but I'm kind of at that point where I know how I need to study and take care of my grades and stuff. So
you found your groove.
Yeah. And I'm and you get to a place where you're able to choose more of your classes rather than you have to take this so you can get the credit. So I'm having a great time.
Good. Now, something that's a little different is we are actually recording your interview well after the show is over.
Yes,
it is actually Friday the 13th.
It's
September 13th. So it's been over for a while. Since it's Friday the 13th, do you believe in superstitions?
No.
Not at all.
I do not believe in ghosts. I think it's a fake concept.
Okay. Do you have any superstitions in relation to theater?
Well, the outfit I wore for the audition of He Needed Killin has now become my audition outfit, so I suppose that can be counted as one.
Yeah, that's a little superstitious.
I mean, I kind of just like the outfit, and obviously I didn't get into the thing I just auditioned for, so it didn't really work, but I thought it looked nice.
It was a very cute outfit.
Yeah.
It worked for me, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
So, since you have to look at me, I might as well explain to everyone what you were looking at. So, Friday the 13th, I actually was walking outside, and I tripped, and I fell face first into a rock on our sidewalk. So, Mary is getting to look at me with a busted lip, so I apologize.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
There's only just a little red spot. Honestly, I don't think I would have known you busted your lip if you didn't mention it. No.
Well, my mom said it looked really sexy, and that girls pay to have lips like this. The collagen injections kind of thing. It kind of has that bee stung look to it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was never a fan of that. I just think
it's really uncomfortable. I don't think I'd ever want the collagen injections.
Yeah, and just no, I don't know. I don't like the way it looks either. They just look like they're pursing their lips all the time, or and to me,
it's very droopy feeling too.
Yeah,
it's almost numb. Right now, I have a numb feeling to it.
Fergie. Have you seen Fergie?
Yeah.
Recently, she kind of has that going on, and she just kind of looks, a little bit what is the movie I'm thinking? Gremlins. You know how they kind of have those lips. Is it Gremlins? Is that the right one?
I always feel like if people say Priscilla Presley or all of these really big Hollywood stars, if their plastic surgery looks fake, then what hope do I have? Because they can afford the very, very best, and they look like they have plastic surgery.
Right. Well, plastic surgery is a fake thing.
Yes. I don't like it.
It makes you fix one thing, say you get a nose drop, and then it's just well, now my nose is fixed, but now I realize I don't like the shape of my eyebrows, so now I'm going to get that fixed. And it's just a scheme to get more money.
There you go. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, probably.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
A psychologist.
Oh, I like that. I think you'd be
neuroscience.
very good at that.
Yeah, I've been told that a lot. I really am interested in psychology. I have been interested in psychology for a long time. And I know a lot of people will say that, like, oh, I like psychology, I want to be a psych major. And it's like, you don't actually want to be a psych major, you just need therapy. But I'm more interested in, like, analyzing, like, neuroscience and behavior. So, like, what about the chemicals in your brain make you act a certain way?
I think that's good.
Because there's a lot of, like, just, you know, being an adolescent teenage girl, you have a lot of feelings all the time.
Sure you do. Yep, feelings are feeling.
You got a lot of emotions, and it's like, oh my God, what is going on? To me, like, I know a lot of people, it's like knowing, like, the science behind it, even though it's very analytical, it helps me kind of understand it better, I guess.
Do you have any theories that you're working on? Any new theories?
No.
Okay.
I couldn't say that. I'd never really thought about my theories. I think this whole consumerism thing we have going on, it promotes this narrative that you aren't good enough, so you have to buy more things. And it's like, well, it's a marketing technique. So all this marketing is going out saying, if you aren't good enough, buy this. And a lot of people, I think, especially a lot of young girls, and especially, like, all over social media, like, you see these images and everything and just all these ads, and I think it all comes back to the fact that, like, it makes you feel bad about yourself, so you buy it. And I just went off on I made a huge jump here.
That's okay.
But I guess this is a theory I have. I think that marketing makes people feel bad about themselves.
It depends on the kind of marketing.
Right.
So what they're doing is they're selling something to say this product will make you feel good about yourself, but really it's your own. You have to figure out how to feel happy on your own.
Right.
You can't buy something. It's like money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy a lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to figure out what makes you happy inside.
I guess, I mean, I suppose that is something I would be interested in. Like, what is the psychology behind that? And, like, how does marketing affect people's mental health? But I think that's well researched by now. And also, like, drug abuse, you know? Like, I think that in neuroscience is very interesting because
What types of personalities are more inclined to drug addiction?
Like, today in class, we were reading this, like, narrative story about, it's, like, called Finders Keepers, the story of Joey Coyle. And it's about this guy who is a meth addict, and he, like, finds $1 million or something, and he's like, well, I found it technically, so I don't have to give it back. And he's like a meth addict, and it was, like, kind of telling this narrative journalistic story, but focusing more on the drug abuse aspect of it. And one of the people who talked about it, he said, well, you know, he's a drug addict and I have no sympathy for drug addicts. And I'm like, whoa there, let's unpack that. And I think a lot of people don't really realize how much of it is inside your head. It's not just, oh, I know drugs are bad for me, but it makes me feel good, so I'm just gonna keep doing it. It's like, you don't, after a certain point, you don't really have a choice anymore. So when it's like you say something like, I have no sympathy for that, it's just, they don't understand it.
Sounds like there needs to be some teaching of compassion.
Yeah. And I don't even know if it's a lack of compassion. I think it's just a lack of not knowing that there's, like, you know, I think they're just thinking these people are purposely choosing to make these poor decisions. And it's like,
I don't think anybody ever purposely chooses to make a poor decision.
no. Wow, we just got somewhere real fun with that.
All right, well, let's get off of that then.
Yeah.
What is your family situation, if you would like to talk about it?
I live with my mom, and I live with my stepdad, and I live with my older brother, Jack, who is 18, and I live with my little sister, Arden, who is 4.
I was going to say she's going to be 5, right?
She'll be 5 in November.
So fun story about Arden is she is as old as the Theatre Downstream.
She is?
She is.
I did
She's
not
the
know
first
that.
Theatre Downstream baby because your mom was pregnant with her when we did
That
our
is
first show.
Right.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Yep. So I will always know how old Arden is.
That's funny. Yeah, she is 4, and she's a hot mess, I'll tell you that. And we have 2 cats. We have Smokey, who we've had since I was 6. She's like a family cat, but she's very mean and prickly, so I don't care for her too much. But we also have, and Lamb Chops, he's my cat. He's my baby, and I adore him. He's the perfect little boy. So that's who I live with at home.
How do you like being the middle sister or the middle child?
Well, for a while I was the younger child,
Right.
And I played that role quite well. And then I became the middle child, and it was kind of like there was a shift because
Yeah.
then I was the oldest sister. I was the
Yeah.
oldest girl, so it's kind of that came with its own new set of things.
Have you found yourself to be, are you more like an older sister, or because there's such a big age difference, are you more like a second mother?
Sometimes I feel that, like, when, you know, there's something going wrong, I feel like I have to fix it. And it's, and I can, yeah, like, for sure, I understand that feeling. And that's kind of new. And just also, you know, when she was born, it kind of became this thing of, well, now I'm not the youngest girl anymore. And, like, we already had a girl, and I was the girl, and we already had the youngest, and I was the youngest. And I never really noticed it, and I was never like, oh, I don't get as much attention anymore. Like, it was never something I thought like that, or any, like, I want to clarify. It's more just kind of like, it was, when she was born, is kind of also when I started middle school, and it was kind of just a more shift to being more self-reliant than I had used to being, which is not in itself, it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just something that happened.
Yeah. Do you like having a sibling so much younger?
I do. It's kind of fun. Like, I think, like, when she was born, you marvel at how, like, tiny
yeah,
she is. And, like I was talking about psychology earlier, and that's something I was really interested for a period of time, developmental psychology. And it's just kind of watching her, like, get older and, like, change, and how she's starting to talk more. And, like, you know, Arden, she's developmentally behind by about, like, a year. So, of course, she doesn't develop the same way other kids do, which just makes it all the more interesting.
Yeah, it does.
The way she communicates and such.
So, let's talk about acting for a little bit. What brought you to acting in the world of theater? What is, if you had an origin story, what would it be?
Let's see. Well, my mom is Jill Moore, and she, like, helped found the Theatre Downstream, and she was, you know, acting all in college, and she directed a lot of plays and did a lot of things with the high school, Henry County High School Theater, and she's directed a lot of plays with Theatre Downstream. So I was always in, like, theater settings. Like, I always remember being, like, a little kid.
One of those theater kids that just hangs out during rehearsals?
Yeah, like, I was always just, like, hanging out with, because my mom was there, and I just had, you know, she had towed us to rehearsal, and we would just run amok backstage and whatnot. So I was always, like, familiar with how that worked. And of course, you know, she was really into theater, so we would always go see shows and such. But I didn't really I don't remember ever thinking about auditioning, or I was always a bit of a I always liked attention when I was a child.
Okay.
I'm a Leo, so
of course. Are you an extrovert or introvert?
I would say, you know, I used to think I was an introvert, but I would say I'm an extrovert.
Well, the real definition is, do you get energized by being in a large group of people, or do they drain you?
It depends. Like, it depends who I'm with.
Okay.
If I'm with a large group of people who I enjoy being with, then yeah. But if I'm with a large group of people I don't really, you know, like, I'm kind of
maybe you're an omnivert then. You could be a little of both.
Yeah, it just kind of depends. And sometimes it's loud and it's overstimulating, and other times it's like, I love talking to you guys, and I love being here. But I always, like, you know, would be like, oh yeah, I could act. I would love to be on stage. And then when I was like 4, I tried out for a Wizard of Oz that the high school was doing. I wasn't 4, I was 9. I was in 4th grade. That's what I was getting confused about. And I'm pretty sure my audition song was like a song from SpongeBob.
Nice.
So yeah, and I did not get in. And later, this was explained to me, the reason I didn't get in wasn't not because I was any better or worse than any of the kids. It was really just the fact that I was from Oldham County, and that like had implications for other people. And obviously when you're 9, you don't understand that. And like, I don't remember being that upset about it or really even caring, but my mom's like, no, you like were upset and you cried about it. And I was like, oh. So maybe that
must not have impacted you for very long then, if you don't remember it.
But I didn't really audition for anything else besides that, and honestly I don't even remember auditioning for it, but apparently it did impact me because I didn't audition for anything.
Oh yeah, you're like, I'm done.
No, yeah, I didn't audition for anything, and I just decided, you know, theater is something that I always really admired and always wanted to be a part of. Like, I always remember going to shows and coming home and just being so like elated and being like, that is so cool. And I'd come home and I'd like be like, what if I was the main girl? Like, how would I deliver that line or sing that part? And I was just like, I really respect and admire it, but it's not for me. And when I got into high school and I saw how like the drama club was, and because I went to drama club meetings but I didn't really go in any of the shows, And I always like really, really admired the community that the theater group had. And
Is this the school theater group?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was something I didn't really, and even just being in high school shows, like I always noticed how together everyone was, and like there was just this understanding, and everyone had this really great sense of community. And it's just like I had never experienced something like that before. So it was something I wanted to be a part of, but didn't really, just kind of observed.
So is that what makes acting so appealing to you, the sense of community?
Oh, definitely. Like that. And when I did audition for something and I got in, and it's like I got in, so I auditioned for the school musical in sophomore year, so last year, and it was Children of Eden was their school musical. And I got in, and I didn't really know anyone. So I was a little worried, but I made friends really easily. And the theater, I will say, like, people will say things about theater kids. They're a little wacky, they're a little quirky, but they're very accepting people. And I was in that community, and it was amazing. Like, it's hard. It is so hard. Like, it is hard work, and you had to be dedicated. And I never realized how hard work. Oh, actually, before that, I did Spotlight for Theatre Downstream. I forgot to talk about that. So before that, I did Spotlight for Wizard of Oz.
Full circle.
Yeah, for summer. It was summer 2018, so between my sophomore and freshman year. And I did Spotlight because they had no one to do Spotlight.
Well, it is a thankless job, usually.
Yeah, so I just was like, oh, all right. And that was another thing I witnessed, like how that community. And when I did that, I was kind of like, I could do this at school, and I could do this more. And I, like, loved it. And even though, like, I kind of just sat in the back and didn't talk to anyone, I'm out of my own business, but I really...
You still liked the process of watching it come together.
It was so... And I was like, I never realized how much dedication was required, and I love a challenge. I love a hardworking challenge. And then I did Spotlight again for White Christmas, and that one was kind of like, I need to be a part of this. I need to be on that stage.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do this. So then I auditioned... And it was like literally when White Christmas ended, that's when auditions started for the musical. And I was like, I'm doing this.
Good.
And I did, and I got in, even though my audition was really bad. And because I had never sung before, or sang before. I had never sung before that in front of people, and everyone who was in there had done choir. I couldn't even read sheet music. Like, if you gave me a sheet of music and pointed to a note and said, what is that note? I wouldn't even be able to tell you that. So that was my skill level there. But I got in, and I learned quite quickly. It was hard, and I struggled, but I learned. And it was great. And, like, I remember just being there and, like, being around all these people and realizing, like, this is what I was always observing and thinking, that's kind of cool, but I never really understood it, and now I get to be a part of this.
That's great.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it.
So you've had your high school show, and then you went into He Needed Killin.
Yes.
So that He Needed Killin would have been your second show.
Yes. And my first straight play.
Okay. So
Yes.
you've now had one musical and one straight show.
Yes. And then 2 musicals, but I did Spotlight for it.
Okay.
So yes. I still count
that. Well, it's kind of tech.
Yeah, tech.
But actually being on stage, you've done one of each.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you're how old?
I am 16.
See, I didn't even start until I was 20.
Oh.
So you are already 4 years ahead of me.
Well.
And I certainly didn't get a lead role at 20.
Yeah.
I had 4 lines. I was a ticket taker. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about He Needed Killin. That is now way over.
Yes.
Long ago. How would you summarize it? If someone did ask you what was it about, what did you tell them?
Oh, I would say, well, it's about an abusive marriage. So there's Luetta, and she's in an abusive relationship with Frank. It's kind of like Steel Magnolias, I would always say, because no one ever even knew what that meant, but... Because
they didn't know Steel Magnolias?
Most people didn't, because they were like kids my age asking.
Oh, that's sad.
I know it. But I'd be like, it's like Steel Magnolias. And they just kind of like,
what?
Okay. Yeah. And so I'd be like, so she's in an abusive marriage, and then she has this group of friends, and like the main ringleader, I'm her niece. And I'm like, and I was always like, she's just kind of weird. Like,
quirky. We say quirky.
And I always told them, well, when I first read the script, I interpreted it as autistic. So that's how I played it.
Yeah.
But, she's just kind of strange. And so that's how I would describe it. And I wouldn't get into it much because it's hard for me to describe because...
It's hard for me to describe. And I'm one of the ones that put it out there. And it's hard for me to go, how do I summarize this?
Yeah. And people would always just kind of be like, okay.
Well, how would you just... So you would describe Amelia, the character that you played, as just quirky or different, or would you say special needs? Would that be a...
I mean, I never said special... I guess special needs would be a descriptor, but I always just kind of said she was just different. Because to me, special needs is... When I think special needs, I think of, like, people in wheelchairs who need, like, people to feed them or something like that. Like, I just think you need more...
And Amelia was completely self-sufficient.
Right. So, like, that's just me in my head. Not that special needs is not the correct descriptor for her, but that's just the connotations I have.
I think it's really interesting. You were the understudy for this show.
Yes.
Which, if people have heard the other podcast, we've kind of been talking about your story a little bit through other... I don't know if you know that, but
I don't.
You have been discussed. You have been discussed in other podcasts, so now you have the motivation to go back and listen to them. But if they hadn't, the reasoning for having two Amelias for me was in the original script. Amelia was supposed to be a woman who was in her 30s, who had been in existence this way for a very long time, and life had just sort of come this way. But then at auditions, this young lady walks in and was amazing, but was way too young in my mind to play the part. But I really wanted to see what she could do, so I talked to the girl that I ended up casting as Amelia to make sure she would be cool with having an understudy, because I wanted to see if I was wrong, because maybe Amelia can be younger, just because in our minds Amelia had been in her 30s doesn't mean she has to be. So I think that we can successfully say that Amelia could be any age.
Oh, cool.
I think it could work. I think 30 is probably what she should be, but I think she could be younger if you have someone with the caliber of talent that you have. But we ended up having with you. You're welcome. So one of the things I would like you to talk about that you told me about at one of the rehearsals is how you decided Amelia's personality.
Yes. So when I was first auditioning, I was auditioning for Dylan because my mom just told me that the auditions were happening, and like she gave me the script because you gave it to her, and I read it and I was like, this I like this is really interesting.
And just to clarify, we made the script available to anyone who wanted to read it.
Right.
This because it was it was an unknown property, and we just said anybody who wants to read it can read it.
Right.
So that's how you got it.
Yes, not that I was like, I got The thing with Dylan is I didn't really feel super connected to Dylan because I wasn't like Dylan, and she's like in her 20s and I wasn't in my 20s. But I was just like, I want to audition because it's happening and why not?
Right.
And I liked Amelia from reading it. I did, and I liked that she delivered that "he needed killin" line, and she was a character I connected with the most, but didn't really even think about it because I was in my head. I was just like, well, I can't be Amelia because she's 30. And I'm not 30.
Right.
And so I was always looking for Dylan, but I kind of liked Amelia because she was like people who I knew in my life. And she was a character who I understood more like than I could with Dylan. So in auditions, I was reading for Dylan, and then I was asked to read for Amelia, and I just originally thought I was asked to read for Amelia because there was only one person reading for Amelia that day. And I was like, they probably just need me to fill in. So I did, and I just did it the way I was like, and I liked her when I first read it because I thought she was autistic.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, yeah, that's right. We have an autistic character. And I just I've never seen a character written like that before. So that's why I liked her. So when I was playing her in the auditions, I was thinking, well, she's autistic, so I guess I'll just go with that. And so that's what I went with at first, and you guys liked it. And I was thinking of my little sister, who we don't know yet, like, exactly what she has going on. We just know she's a year developmentally behind. And a lot of my, like, movements and facial, because it was a lot of movement. I didn't have any lines. So I had to convey everything with my movements and my face. So a lot of the faces I had and the movements I had were things that I'd seen my little sister do, which is like, she's 4, so how could you translate that to
being
16?
You could very easily because she's childlike.
Right.
So Amelia was childlike, so you could, or the way you portrayed her was more childlike.
Yes, and that was what I did at first, and like I kind of struggled with her at first because I remember you sat both me and Ashley down, Ashley Kazaza, who was Amelia, and said, like, we don't really know who Amelia is yet either. And we want you to help figure out who she is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really know who she is either. I've just been playing her way I just naturally went for. And I know that's like, it's just like, oh, I just have so much natural talent. But that's literally what I did. And, you know, take that as you want it. I'm not trying to say, oh, I just naturally knew what to do. It was more just like, that's just the way I thought to portray it. And it just kind of worked.
Yeah, it did.
And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, you know, it just what happens. From there, I just kind of thought about, and you said the original Amelia was based off your sister.
Correct. Yes.
And so I thought about that, and I just, you know, I didn't really have anyone close in my life who had Down syndrome. So it wasn't really something that I thought about it, but it was like, I kind of need, for me, when I'm thinking of characters, I kind of have to have a base.
Yeah.
To go off of. And that base was originally my sister.
Yeah.
And then
you can expand from there.
And from there, I just thought about like, well, let's make a backstory for Amelia. And
yeah,
so
that's what you should do. Yes.
I made so her backstory for my Amelia was, I knew she was an orphan. She lived with her Ruth. And so I was like, what if her parents died in a fiery car crash that she might have been a part of?
Which could have caused, the only thing we say about her is that her behavior was caused from the brain injury. That's the only reference we give to the reason she is the way she is.
So in my head, she probably had autism, and like just in a way that maybe, like she always had autism. That's not something you can get from being in a traumatic event.
Right.
But certainly being in a traumatic event can cause being nonverbal and having different kind of
just the trauma can make you
Right.
nonverbal. It doesn't have to be something that hits you on the head.
Right.
You can just go through emotional trauma.
And so that's kind of what I was going with. Like her parents had died
in front of her, maybe.
Yeah, which is really rough. And obviously, I have no idea what that's like. But that was kind of just in my head. Like and also she's very childish. And I'm 16, so I'm not necessarily.
Would you say childish or childlike?
Childlike.
Yeah.
And so in my head, she had witnessed this thing maybe at like 10 years old.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of times, I have heard that if you have something traumatic happen in your life like that, you will mentally and emotionally stop at the age you were when that traumatic event happened.
And that was what it's going with. Like she was maybe 10 when this happened, and then Ruth took her in, and she is very devoted to Ruth. And I think that also helps me play into that, because it's like Ruth took her out of this place.
Right.
And Ruth gave her a place to be. And I kind of went with that, and like Amelia if she witnessed this thing that made her not talk, she had to deal with it in her own way. And her own way was reverting back to maybe things she used to do, like maybe like painting and dressing up for everything. And that was like for me, I was thinking in my head, like she goes back to that because that's something she can still have.
Yeah.
When she can't have these people who raised her.
Yeah, I think that's very smart.
So that's what I was going with, because, you know, you can't just act silly and like weird and then that's just how she is, you know? Like for me,
there has to be a reason.
Right. And obviously like the autistic thing and just undefined special needs, and I'm sure that definitely played into it for me. Like it wasn't just this traumatic thing happened to her and now she's weird, because that's not how life works, and that's not how people work. That's not how anything works, but it played into it.
So you also came up with her sun sign and her moon sign.
Yes, I went to astrology because that is something I know a lot about. And astrology, say what you want about astrology. I know it's not real, okay? I know that. You don't need anyone telling me that it's not real. I know that. But you know what? It's just fun.
Well, I don't buy into the whole astrology as far as predicting my future, but I do think that the sign that you're, like, I'm a Pisces, and if you look up the characteristics of a Pisces, I think I fit most, if not all of those.
Right.
And I think you can use it to kind of help you create personalities, which is what you've done.
I did.
You decided that Amelia was a Pisces, correct? Because of her painting and
I don't
artistic.
think I remember. I remember her main ones, because I agree with you. I don't really buy into the future telling stuff, but I do think like it makes sense. And it makes sense because for those of you who don't know, your sun sign is the sign that you were born into. So you like, if you were born from like a certain period of time, you're this sign, and that's always been your astrology sign. But you have, and that's called your sun sign, and it's just like who you are.
Yes.
So I'm a Leo. But then your moon sign is who your emotional self is. So it's like how you view yourself and how you process your emotions. So it's like your sun and your moon are your most important. So your sun is just how you are on the outside, and your moon is how you are on the inside.
I believe that I'm a Cancer moon.
Ah.
Yes.
Double water sign.
Yes.
Very emotional.
Yes.
So for Amelia, I'm pretty sure I had her as a Pisces sun because she was artistic and she was, you know, dreamy and like kind of, like I said, childlike. So she was very like, you know, I'm just
floating around here.
And then I'm pretty sure I had her moon sign as Virgo.
I believe that. I believe so. Yeah.
And for Virgos, she really values that security that she had with Ruth, and she had a routine. Like in my head, she had a routine. Like she would do the maid things and did the fish tank, and
certain times of day she had things that it's a routine that she had to get done.
And that was her kind of emotional self. And then her rising sign was I don't remember. Oh, I remember what I had her as rising. So your rising sign is how you come off to other people, and it's kind of just like first impressions and just how you seem to other people. And I had her and those are considered the three most important: moon, sun, rising, sun, moon, rising. And her rising I had is in Aries.
Now, how do you determine your rising sign?
Like your birth time.
Oh, okay.
And it changes every 2 hours, so make sure you got the right time.
Oh, I know what time I was born.
Oh, that's good. I had her as an Aries rising because Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. So it's considered like the child of the zodiac.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I was thinking. And she's very like, I was thinking of how she interacted with maybe like Joan at the beginning versus how she interacted with Joan at the end. So Joan at the beginning, you know, she's spraying her hat with the bead
there's
thing.
kind of an animosity there.
Right. Like she's kind of, she's a little fiery there. She's a little stubborn. She's a little impulsive there. But then towards the end, they have a nice moment together.
They do. They have a beautiful moment.
I kind of thought of that contrast for that. And it just helps me, like, even though it's just silly and it's fun, but it helps me kind of think.
If it helps you create a character, then it's not silly.
What would she do when reacting to Ruth? And I would think, well, if she's this certain sign, then she would do this certain thing. And it helps me. So that's something, I guess, acting tip.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about writing anything? Writing plays or...
I've thought about it. I do keep a journal where I write lots of things, and sometimes I think that they're very profound. But the thing is about me is that I say a lot. I talk a lot, and I think a lot, and I feel a lot of things. And I think that it wouldn't translate well into writing because I am not able to edit.
Oh, well, maybe you should have someone else edit then.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want that.
You don't want somebody else to read your stuff?
No, well, not even that. I like to be in control.
Hey, I feel you. I feel you, girl.
And so it's just like, I don't think I'd be a good writer because I would be
But you don't know.
Well, I don't know. Well, I've written things, but I just thinking about writing like books that you would want to be published, you have to take some of your emotions out of it because if you're so attached to your work.
Oh, sure.
And putting all your personal things in.
But I would say you have to put your emotion into it when you're writing it and then remove yourself emotionally after it's written and say, well, it is what it is.
I mean, a lot of times I write things because I'm feeling very like sensitive and I'm writing it so I can put it down on that page and get it out, and then I can be like, all right, now I can like let's analyze this.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I think you should write a short story. I think if I was allowed to give you homework, I would say write me a short story because I want to read it, because I think what you would write would be very, very good.
Well, thank you.
Okay, let me ask you, do you have, from the show, I can't say favorite line because you didn't have really a lot, but did you have a favorite line or scene? Since you were an understudy, you kind of got to watch a lot of it. Did you have a favorite moment that you would watch?
Of course, a fan favorite would be the taser scene.
Oh, that was my favorite. Definitely.
I liked that one because...
Did you like acting in it or watching it or both?
Acting in it,
yeah,
I would say probably the most, because that taser scene in the whole first act, I have a lot of cues I have to remember, and I have a lot of things I have to remember to bring out.
Yes.
So it was I had to remember those things, but once I get to the second act, I don't have to remember those things anymore because I'm just moving with the flow of the story.
Right.
So I always enjoyed that, and it's just fun to be a part of. And scene of act 2, the first scene where I'm like hiding in the coffin and Ruth comes and finds me, and then interacting with Frank, because this is kind of the only time Amelia interacts with Frank before she kills him.
True.
So that for me was kind of a big scene because it was kind of like...
let me pause you there. Do you think that Amelia kills him, or is it a combination of things.
Well, yeah, obviously she's not the one who murders him. I mean, he's
kind of a group effort.
Right, like he's drunk and he gets stabbed and all these things. But she's the one who delivers that final blow.
Right.
And it's like, that's kind of where I get to make, for me, it was thinking like, how do I show that this is something I might do?
Yeah. And I think watching it was so cool for both you and Ashley. It was so, I knew we had done our jobs when there was this massive eruption of applause and cheers when Amelia gives him that final final blow, and we had to stop because everybody is cheering and applauding, and wow, we have done what we wanted to do from the beginning, which is to make this character who's not on stage that much, Frank's not on stage that much, to make him so hated that everyone is happy when he is finally taken out. It was. I kind of got teary every night because I was just like, everyone hates him.
That would, for me, like, especially being Amelia, I felt so cool. I felt
empowered,
so powerful. I was like, yeah, he needed killing, and it's a really powerful moment. And to witness, I mean, I don't really witness it when I'm an ensemble member, but I can hear it for sure.
Yeah.
And that is a very powerful moment. And for me, that was kind of like, how do you show that for her?
Right.
Because in that scene, no one's looking at you until you're up there.
Right.
So I had to show it with that. In my mind, I was glaring at him, but who knows what I actually looked like.
You were. I've seen the photo.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not, and also that, and then the fish tank scene when I'm cleaning the fish tank.
That's cute.
Because there is a lot of things, like a lot of important conversations are happening in that scene. That's kind of when they're getting to the point of, this man, I wish this man was dead.
Right.
And we don't want this man in Luetta's life anymore.
Right.
And that's a really important scene because it kind of drives the rest of the whole second act and the rest of the play. And I am at that fish tank the whole time. And I'm not really, and I am just cleaning those fish and cleaning that fish tank. And I don't participate in this conversation at all. But I think that last Ruth's monologue is really, like, for me, showing that, because I think it's important that Amelia heard that.
Yes it is.
And so it's that scene I really enjoyed playing with, because you kind of have to think about, what is she going to take from this?
Who is a celebrity that you would like to see tackle the role of Amelia?
This is fun for me, because I think this is gonna go big.
Well, I hope so.
Well, I hope so too. And that for me, like, knowing I'm the original character, I like that. And so, I'd like to, if I'm thinking young Amelia, so I'm thinking of me, I'd like to see someone like Millie Bobby Brown.
Oh, that's a really good choice, because she did 11 with no dialogue.
And I've been told by a few sources that I look like Millie Bobby Brown.
I could see that.
And so I already have that. And knowing, like, she did 11, who is a nonverbal character, for me, it would be really interesting to see how she would take this different nonverbal character. Because Amelia and 11 are obviously different.
Oh, very
But in
different.
the end, they're kind of the hero.
Yes, very much.
So for me, like, that similarity in characters, I think, like, that's an actress I would like to see take that role.
That's true. I think you also, had you been young enough, which unfortunately you've aged out of it, but I think you could have had a lot of fun with Helen Keller.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely aged out of it, but, like, I would have a lot of fun with Helen Keller, because she's a little bit angry.
Yes,
she's a little bit angry.
She's a little feisty thing.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what makes a good scene partner?
I think someone who considers who you are as an actor as well.
Okay.
Because I've had some bad scene partners.
Okay. What made them bad?
Well, what made them bad is that they were just in their own world. They were not interacting with me.
Okay.
I just think it's just important to recognize the people you're around on stage, because, let's be honest, 70% of that show is the people, how you interact with other people.
Reaction instead of action.
Right. And I think I have to applaud, of course, Michelle, who is Joan, and Nancy, who was Ruth, because we interacted a lot, and and especially since they had to interact with two different Amelias, who were two different characters, essentially.
And two different personalities.
Right. So, and I think what made them really good scene partners is, especially Michelle, like, I'm sure Michelle has gotten a lot of talk, but, like, the way she interacted with me was so good, because she was always, like, just, it was so natural, but it was so, like, I'm trying to think of a way to describe this. Like, it was very natural, but it wasn't so natural that the audience couldn't tell what we were doing. Like, she was very good at just really bringing me into this. And, like, especially that taser scene, like, Amelia's kind of just sitting there watching it. But the way, like, she's always, like,
pulling me
into it, and, like, and how we're all kind of balancing off each other. And even though Amelia's supposed to be withdrawn from that scene, I can't just, like, not interact with anyone because that would be so awkward and strange. But the way that we were all able to play off each other, even though I was not doing as much. And, like, the fish cleaning scene. And oftentimes Amelia's kind of off in her own world, so people aren't interacting with her. There's, like, a lot of times where I'd be hiding from Frank, and Melissa would kind of just look at me and be like, are you okay? And so that's something, like, Laura did really well. Yeah. Being able to interact, or, like, mothering. The balloons and, like, that sort of thing. Like, just little things like that, just recognizing, like, who you're on stage with. And not just, like, just the not recognizing, like, I'm Melissa to Amelia, but also just I'm Laura to Mary, or I'm Michelle to Mary, or I'm Joan to Amelia. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. Ashley is the one that played Amelia for most of the performances. So tell me something that you enjoyed about her particular brand of Amelia. What did you like about the way she did it?
She was fun. Yeah. She was really funny, and I think she was funny in a way that I couldn't be funny.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, like, just because I could be funny because it's like, oh, Amelia, she's so cute. But she was more funny in a way, it's like, what on earth is she doing? That is hilarious. And it's like, I couldn't have done that because it wouldn't have fit in with my, I mean, I could do things similar like that. Like, I could definitely do things where it's like, what is she doing? But it was more in kind of a cute way. And I think it's
just different personalities.
Yeah, and hers was more in, like, a quirky, like, fun way. And I really loved the way Joan and Ashley, like, so Michelle and Ashley interacted on stage. It was so funny because you could tell they were just having a good time.
Yeah. One thing I liked that Ashley did is a lot of her movements, and I don't know if this was on purpose, but I got the impression as I was watching that she was acting like a bird. She was moving her head like a bird and acting very bird-like because Ruth calls her Amelia Bird.
I did not notice. Now that you say bird, I'm like, yeah, she was.
She was being very bird-like.
And I think she was just really funny in a way that when she would pop out and she would look, it was kind of like really a mysterious murder way. Like, I'm trying to, like, the murder mysteries where it's like, oh.
Well, she was in Something's Afoot, so maybe that was a little training for that.
Yeah, so definitely, like, that kind of vibe that she brought, which I thought was really fun. And she is the one who kills Frank in the end. So it's like,
the murder mystery is solved.
So I kind of, she had that kind of, like, and since she was an adult and she had more experience, I think that showed through with her Amelia.
Yeah, I think so too. So how did you feel being an understudy? Did you feel cheated by the experience? Was it a good experience? What was your overall feeling about it?
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah?
Because Amelia was a hard character, and it was so helpful to have another person to bounce ideas off of. And even though we did that, our characters were still completely different. And I'm sure she talked to this too, but it was really nice because you could see how she handled something on stage that I wasn't sure how to handle.
So you could learn from each other,
right? But it was never copying because we were different and we played it differently, and we couldn't play it the same way, otherwise it wouldn't have worked,
right?
So it was really nice to have that, especially with a character like Amelia. And since I had so many, like, props and things to, like, bring on stage, it was really helpful to have someone like Ashley who was really knowledgeable about that and, like, really good at doing things like backstage setup and interacting with props.
Yeah, that would have been important.
That was a really helpful skill that I learned. Like, I remember her sitting down and being like, okay, let's make a list of all the props we need at these times and make sure we have them all in these right places. And I probably would not have been able to do that one on my own.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful. And also something that was difficult about understudying, and she and I talked about this, you got a note and you couldn't go back and rehearse it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, the best way to learn is to practice. And there were some things like interacting with the belt and, like, pretending to measure the sarcophagus that we added in later that I only got to practice maybe, like, 2 times before I had to go on stage with it.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, like, that aspect of, like, not being able, you had to just be watching and be attentive And I was always watching her on stage, which is like, I'm like...
She's very watchable anyway.
Yeah, so I was always watching her and like trying to gain what I could from that. And I really liked being an understudy for that reason, that I got to watch so much too. Like, it was hard because I couldn't practice as much as maybe I would have liked to. But also it was interesting because I got to see the play. And you don't get to see the play when you're acting in the play.
You don't, no.
So I got to see it a lot.
Yeah.
And I learned so much about just acting, because there's some really talented people on that stage. Like,
there are.
Like, everyone who is on stage I learned from. Laura is such a great actress, and I really learned a lot from her just watching her on stage, even though our characters didn't interact as much, and even though like we were playing really different characters, just how she like got into it. And like, I remember she was struggling one time with like this huge monologue she had, and she's like, I need a rising point, I need a falling point, and I was like, that was something I have kept in mind, like, where am I going with this? And that's like just little things like that. And Nancy, of course, the way she just commands a room.
She does.
The way she and like, you feel like you're talking like this, and the way she just did that and made it so natural was just really impressive to me. And I was like, just learned so much from that.
Do you have a favorite story from the experience? It can be backstage. Is there a moment, something that happened?
Candy, I forgot. Oh my gosh, I just remember there was a time where I was like reading lines or something, and I was eating like a muffin that I had bought and brought for a snack, and I just said something like, every time I see Candy, I'm just like, she's just doing such a good job. And Miss Lori Potts thought that was so funny. And I forgot how that was something I really loved. Anytime I talked to Candy, because at the very beginning of rehearsals, I didn't really know anyone. And I was like, it was just me and Juliana. We were the youngest people there. And one of the first people I talked to a lot was Candy, because I sat in one place and she sat right in front of me. So that was something I really loved, how much she just like talked to me. And she was always like, you're doing so good, and just talked to me.
She's very encouraging.
She's so encouraging. And like, that is one thing that I really enjoyed. I guess this isn't like a favorite thing, but I just like, that is something I really liked, because like that community thing, I wasn't quite in yet, and that made me feel more in, because it was like, oh, thank you so much, Candy. And then also Juliana, like, we became really good friends.
Good.
And like, you know, at first we didn't talk as much, because and you would be like, well, obviously you would talk because you're the only two 16-year-old girls there, but we didn't really talk much until actually this show started. And there was like a time when we just had like a long emotional talk backstage, and it was great. And I was like, Juliana, we are best friends now. And so like, the bonds you make. And also like, Nancy, she always comes up and she's like, well, it's so easy to love you. I don't even have to pretend to love you. And I was like, thank you, Nancy.
So the encouragement and validation was very, very good.
That is something I really enjoyed.
Good. Okay, well, let's wrap this up.
Okay.
With some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And just tell me the first thing that comes into your mind. Doesn't have to be the right answer. It's just the first answer.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite meal?
Pasta.
That's a good choice.
Salmon.
Oh, I love salmon.
I like salmon.
What is the most quotable movie?
Perks of Being a Wallflower was the first thing that came in my head. That was like, I was just sitting here and I
saw that in the theater.
You did?
I did.
Saw that. I read the book, and then I was like, oh, this is just the most inspiring, like most, what's the word I'm looking for, intuitive piece of media I have ever seen in my entire life. And I watched the movie, and like, I think about that. It was Paul Rudd, and he said, people will accept the love they receive, or something like, was that what he said? Like, people accept the love they think they deserve, or something like that. And it was just like, I don't even remember the line, and I just said it was the most quotable movie.
That's okay.
But yeah, that was the first thing that popped in my mind.
What is the best book you've read lately?
Little Women.
Ooh.
I just finished it.
Oh, how'd you like it?
Oh, I liked it a lot.
Yeah?
Yes.
It's behind you somewhere, I think, on the shelf.
Yeah, I just finished that, and it gave me a lot of things to think about. Some of it was like, oh, sweet preachy. But some of it was like, they talked about that in the 1800s.
What was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
If you could have any animal as a pet, not a dog or a cat, what would it be?
A fox.
Oh, a Fox is a good choice.
I see lots of people with foxes.
Okay. Do you have any historical heroes? And historical heroes just has to be someone who's no longer alive.
Carrie Fisher.
Oh.
I miss her every day.
Coke or Pepsi?
Neither. I don't like soda.
You're healthy.
I never drink soda. Like, the last time I can say I had soda be over a year.
Wow.
Because when I was a kid, I didn't like it because it hurt my throat. How, like, the carbonation, it was fizzy.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've always just drank water. But I guess Coke if I had to choose.
Okay, that's the right answer. If you could live in any decade, which one would you choose?
I mean, I guess the 70s.
You think you would fit in well with the 70s?
I like the vibe, the fashion, and I like the music. And I
Yeah.
just kind of like the vibes. Like this whole summer lovin' sort of thing.
Okay. What is your best advice for other people who want to become actors?
Do it. Don't. Just, you cannot overthink it. And I think so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think so much all the time. And you just have to try. You just have to try. You're gonna feel bad sometimes. I had a real feel bad moment earlier today. I auditioned for something and I did not get into it. And it felt bad.
Yeah.
But you're gonna come out of it with something.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to go through that audition, and even if you just flub it completely, you're going to come out of it having done an audition before.
Yes.
If nothing else.
Yes. Having another experience.
Yeah, and it's just, if you want to do it, the only way you're going to be able to do it is if you just try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of like writing a short story.
Maybe.
I just walked you into that one, didn't I?
Maybe. I love to analyze, but I'm not sure much about, like, making my own ideas.
I don't know. I think you should. So if you could tell the child version of yourself one thing, like 10-year-old Mary, what would you tell her?
Oh, be kind to yourself. Be nicer to yourself. Don't be so mean to yourself. All you can do is just make kindness the most important thing about yourself. Because that's something that no one can ever take away from you. And putting that into the world, you're only going to get it back. And just don't be so mean to yourself. Just be kind to yourself. And it's going to show. And even if it doesn't feel like it, and it's going to be really hard, and you're not going to feel like it, and you're going to feel like, I don't wanna. But it will show.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, last one.
Okay.
If you knew that you could not fail, what would you do?
Oh, gosh. The first thing in my head was, like, opera.
Oh.
But, like, I have no interest in opera, and I know nothing about opera. It was just kind of like, I guess, singing, like, any kind of performing arts, which it's like, but you were in a musical, you were in a play, but it's just like any kind of art. Art is so hard, and not just like drawing or painting, like visual art, performing art, music. Like it is so hard, and it takes so much talent and perseverance and hard. Like not even talent. Talent is a fake concept. It takes so much hard work and practice and dedication. And if I could just have those skills without having to practice them, that would be great. And I think a lot of people get caught in that, where it's like, oh, I tried this and I'm not good at it right away. And it's like, well, obviously, because it's hard. You have to practice. No one's good at it right away. And if they are, then they're lying.
That's right. That's right. Yes. That's good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
You have anything else you want to say?
Don't do drugs. Don't, I guess. Be kind. Be kind to yourself. I know there's like all these signs around that's like, be kind. But it's like, be kind. Love yourself enough so that no one can hurt you.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Well, you're welcome.
Thanks to Mary Clark for joining me today. And many thanks to the sponsors of He Needed Killin, Cedar Lake, Starview Greenhouses, and United Citizens Bank and Trust. Remember to join us next week for our final He Needed Killin cast interview with Laura Adams. This episode of Getting Real was executive produced, edited, and written by me, Ashley Raymer-Brown.
It was produced and co-written by me, Bree Highshoe.
Music was provided by Final Cut Pro, and artwork was created by Ashley Raymer-Brown. That's me, and Bree Highshoe.
That's me.
Getting Real is a separate entity from the Theatre Downstream. The thoughts and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of the Theatre Downstream or the sponsors of their shows. Thanks for listening.
Frank and Loretta and unlikely pair. They were as different as can be. Frank was a two-faced, blowhard jerk. Louetta as lovely as a dream. And why she married him is lost on us all. And why she stuck around was hard to say. Louetta is too kind to ever say a word, and Frank wouldn't listen anyway. Here in the South, we have ourselves a saying, and it's true even if it sounds absurd. And you northern folk might think that we're simply playing, but when uttered we mean every single word. It's true, he needed killing, even if no one was willing. But things have a way of working out, and he needed killing, and killing's what this show is about. They say that a diamond is a lady's best friend, and in most cases that might just be true. But that can't be said of Louetta these days. She has the friends who know just what to do. Because ladies in the South, they keep to themselves and try to maintain their dignity. But when push comes to shove and the chips are all down, they might just commit a felony. Yes, they would. He needed killing, even if no one was willing. But things have a way of working out, and he needed killing, and killing's what this show is about.